Guys, it's Kevin here. It's pretty windy and pretty rainy out right now, so bear with me. Yeah, I just want to respond to a comment that someone left on a video I made yesterday. And I mean, in no way, this is not like an aggro thing at all. It's just like I'm spreading my old fart knowledge, my wise knowledge. As someone who's been a teacher for a long time, worked in a lot of different companies, and also someone who was once a manager and had some responsibility for hiring people and what you look for. My allergies are acting up, so I'm coughing. But yeah, so I wrote that. My video. I was all happy because I got to leave work early yesterday because my principal said I could leave early, which I was so happy about. And someone said, "Well, I mean, you said you're finishing your contract in a few weeks. If you know you're leaving the job, why don't you just like leave when I'm done teaching? Why don't I just leave early every day?" Well, that's that's the kind of attitude that gets you fired. It's the kind of attitude that gets you a bad reference. It's the kind of attitude that can get your pay docked or your pay suspended. And when you have a wife and 2 children who depend on you for their income to pay rent, to pay for food, this and that, you can't have such a cavalier attitude. It's professionalism. I've been teaching for a long time. I taught in Canada, I've taught in Korea, I've taught here in Japan. I've only been an English teacher in Japan for 7 months, and I'm leaving that because I don't care for it so much. It just doesn't work for me. I'm going back to being a homeroom teacher, an international school teacher, which is just like teaching back in Canada, pretty much. But yeah, so what I think, especially for young people out there, if you're still in school, if you don't have a lot of work experience, if you've never had a quote-unquote real job, if you've only had like a service sector job or a retail job, when I'm talking like a real job, I mean like kind of a very kind of professional job where you go to an office every day or you go to a school every day, you really got to act professional. You got to show up to work early every day, and you leave late if necessary. If you're a teacher, you don't get paid overtime, guys. It does not work that way. It doesn't work that way in America, Canada, England, Australia, New Zealand, Japan. There's no such thing. I mean, teachers put in countless hours of extra work, doing assessment, preparing assignments. That's just part of the deal. That's part of being a teacher. If you don't want to do that, then don't be a teacher. But you always got to think 3 steps ahead. What if think of the references on your resume. You want to be able to put a job on your resume, even if you don't like that job so much. You want to be able to put that on your resume and know that if you need a reference, you can point them in the direction of your former manager or employer, and they'll give you a good reference. Also, there's no point ever burning a bridge if you don't need to. For example, maybe you leave a job and a year or 2 down the road, you need a job suddenly. Maybe you're working for another company and it goes under, you get laid off. It's nice to have a great relationship or rapport with your old company and then to have good memories of you. So if need be, you can go back to them and say, and approach them and say, "Hey, are you hiring? I need a job again." But again, even just like references, you know. I just applied for a master's program and I needed to have professional references. So I had to think back to people who were my supervisors in the past and I worked with and use them as references. So unless you've been really, really, really harmed. And there was a company I worked for earlier in 2013. I only worked for a few months, and they were breaking some labor laws. I only worked for them for a couple of months, and I quit. They weren't giving me my full pay like was promised on my contract. But the deal is, I've never mentioned the name of that company because I'm worried about litigation. I'm worried about them possibly suing me. Even though I was in the right, and they would probably lose something that would end up, you know, even if I'm right, that might have been a possible situation of me, losing a lot of money because I'm not in a financial position to hire a lawyer to defend myself, even again if they might slap me with like libel or something like that. So I've used that lesson to share with people about things to look out for in Japan, but I haven't mentioned the name of the company itself. Maybe I will someday when I go back to Canada. I probably will. If I'm back in Canada in a couple of years, I'll happily talk about them. But yeah, so I'm going back to a former employer, and I left on a very high note with them. I left the proper way, and now I'm going back to work for them, and that's what you always got to think about. So would I just leave work early, even without permission? No, I would never do that. I'm a 38-year-old man. I'm a professional teacher. I do take what I do pretty seriously, so nah, I wouldn't do that. And I'm also noticing that my train appears to be late. My train is late! Oh well, what are you gonna do? Alright, so this is going up in the jlandkev channel. Oh, also last night I launched my Patreon account. The link is below. Go check it out. My Patreon page. That's a way that if you feel like you want to support the Just Japan podcast or my video production endeavors, my creative projects, please feel free. You can support. You don't have to, but you can if you want. Links below. I'm gonna be making videos no matter what, but make things easier and the quality will get better. So take a peek below. I won't. In a few videos, I'm going to shout this out, but I won't always be doing it. So links below, Patreon account. For the next few days, I will talk about it a lot. After that, I will go hush hush about it, but the link will always be around. So there we go, guys. Take care and oh, my train's coming! Yay! Here we go. Train's coming. Train's coming.